There's a campaign ongoing in Iceland right now to completely ban internet porn, no exceptions. As you might guess, I'm against this, but I'm going to play devil's advocate and give you some of the reasons that they're thinking about doing this. First, Iceland is actually a pretty interesting example of countries in the EU. So they apparently have, by various measures, the largest gender gap in their society between men and women, which is actually pretty interesting, and I certainly wouldn't have expected it. And perhaps as a result of this, there's an interesting number of pieces of legislation trying to take away some of that gap. So distributing porn has been illegal in Iceland from as far back as 1869, I'm reading here. This is a report in The Guardian. That's pretty interesting. I mean, I don't know exactly how high quality porn was 150 years ago. Maybe it wasn't worth distributing. But at least for the last 30, 40 years since Playboy and Hustler and all that, it seems like you'd want to distribute that sort of thing. And so if they've been able to actually stop that, kudos to them. That's some pretty hardcore stuff, literally. Finally, or I should say also, they made a very interesting move, and it's pretty innovative actually. So sex workers typically doing that sort of behavior in many countries in the world is illegal, and if you try to sell sex, you can be arrested. But they instead decided to target sex buyers. Now, there are occasionally stings even in America, but having that as the central tenet of your strategy to stop sex work is a little bit different, and perhaps more understanding of the women trying to make ends meet, I guess. And finally, this was back in 2009, and finally in 2010 they banned strip clubs. And so, regular pornography is also already illegal, prostitution, stripping even. I guess internet porn is kind of a natural extension of that, and they give some reasons why. So they feel like, and this is one of the common refrains that's often given against internet porn, that it makes women feel inferior or makes them feel pressured into doing certain sexual acts. We've certainly heard this argument before. I'm going to give a quote, actually. This is from Guðrún Jónsdóttir, a spokeswoman, I should say, for Stigmat, one of the centers that helps victims of sexual abuse in Iceland, says, "Why should we allow unfettered misogyny, images of rape? The argument is that we need to ban porn because it hurts our children, and that is true, but it also needs to be stopped because it is hate speech and violence against women and affects people's relationships." So that's throwing out a lot of reasons that she's opposed to internet porn. Many of the common ones that we hear even in America when people like Rick Santorum talk about wanting to have a war on pornography. Now, I don't doubt that some women do feel pressured into looking a certain way or acting a certain way because of what they see in online porn. I should also note that sexualized advertisements are also very rare in Iceland. So, they're not showing the American Apparel ads, I guess. And so this might seem like a natural extension of that. And they're also saying that it has effects on relationships. I actually am somewhat sympathetic to that argument. I think that the sort of pornography, I apologize, and the way that it's consumed is probably having some psychological effect on men, if not women. But giving all of those arguments and understanding where they're coming from on that, I still think that it's a bad idea. I think that it's a losing cause in terms of the technology. I think that it's almost impossible to do. Now, what they would do is they would ban IPs, they would ban certain websites, and they would also make it illegal to use Icelandic credit cards to pay for online porn. Now, the percentage of porn that's actually being paid for is probably a very small amount. And it just seems like we're in a world where this information is available. There are only a few countries that really try to ban this sort of stuff. Actually, one student in this says, China and North Korea ban these things. Does Iceland really want to be like those countries? And I don't think that it does. I understand that that you need to protect the women and to some extent the men who are consuming this pornography, but I think there are other ways that you can do that. Education campaigns and things like that. You should certainly work to close this gender gap that they have in this country. But I think that it's just against human nature to ban pornography. We've had pornography since we had self-expression, since we had art. People were drawing naked bodies. And it seems like just because it's online, and it might be a little bit easier in some cases to track, it doesn't make it a wise move for Iceland. I think that you're fighting against the flow of progress. I think that it's against human nature. I don't think that it'll work long term.